Richards. Christopher, how are you? I know you're excited
Doing
about our guest.
great. Yeah, absolutely excited about our guest today. I want to present Diane Mocha. She is an absolutely dynamic entrepreneur who's building a great business in software as a service, and then working with childcare workers, helping moms connect with other childcare providers. So I wanted to thank you for coming on, Diane. It's just such a pleasure just working with you behind the scenes, and then having you on here for the show.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. It's been great getting to know you and the work that you do.
Absolutely. So now that we have you on, one of the things that we love as part of the Savant podcast is really just that exploration of who you are as an entrepreneur, right? So just right off the gate, tell us about your story. How did you start Mom Sub, and how did you get you to where you are today?
Well, Chris, I'm an accidental entrepreneur,
Oh, okay.
actually. So I got a degree in communications and went into journalism, which was a field I loved, and got my dream position at a station in Milwaukee, working in television news as a reporter. It was a great time, what I always
Wow.
wanted to do. Did that for many years. But I had a great opportunity after I had my child to work part-time and be home with my kids the rest of the time, which was perfect 2 days a week. But the station happened to be 100 miles from my home. So I was doing this crazy long commute, only 2 days a week, to have this wonderful work-life balance that everyone talks about that really
Right.
did work in my life. But I hated that commute. It drove me crazy. And so I was trying all these different things to not have this thing in my life that I hated. And I eventually started listening to audiobooks. And one day I picked up one called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Didn't even
Ah,
know what it
yes.
was about, but I had heard of it. It's a book that changes a lot of people's lives. And it made me realize that there were possibilities in the world that I never knew about, that my perspective maybe was skewed and narrowed, and that I could see the world in a whole new way. And it very much introduced me to the world of real estate. And so I started a little at a time, but ended up acquiring different rental properties with no money down. That was the
Wow.
second book I
Wow.
listened
You
to,
were
was
you were hitting the
Robert
pavement.
Allen's No Money Down. So even though I didn't think of myself as an entrepreneur then, I just thought of myself as a reporter who was doing this real estate thing on the side to help my family with a little extra money. It kind of grew and grew. And then the market crashed and it was
Yeah.
awful.
Don't we
And then
love
I learned
that?
the other lesson of entrepreneurship, which is, there are intense obstacles that you never think you're going to be able to
Never.
overcome. Yes,
Mhm.
but I did. I found a mentor and I overcame through a lot of hard work and a lot of advice from other people. And I eventually got the advice to just create an LLC, treat this as a business, not this
Yeah.
extra side hustle thing. That's
Right.
when I really started to embracing this idea of, I guess I'm an entrepreneur, but I always
Yeah.
thought of myself as a journalist first. And eventually, I actually acquired another business when my kids were teenagers. It was a fun little business where we put signs in the lawn to help people celebrate their birthdays. It was to teach my kids about entrepreneurship. But after a while, 15 years at the station, that gig ended, and I was thinking about my next thing, and I really wanted to tell stories that were very meaningful to me. So I started a YouTube channel to explore the stresses that working moms endure, because I went through a lot of that.
Mhm.
Right.
And I was interviewing just dozens and dozens, eventually hundreds of working moms for this YouTube channel, putting together these stories. And I kept hearing the same problem over and over. They say when someone wants to be a startup founder, you've really got to spend time to interview customers. And I was doing this without realizing it. So I found
Yeah,
this problem and
absolutely.
said, I can do more than just put together stories to inspire them to improve their lives. I can start a business that will change their lives because I have the skills. Now I have the knowledge. I have the experience of being a working mom myself and struggling with these childcare challenges. So that was the genesis of Mom Sub.
See,
Wow.
and
Absolutely inspiring.
I love this, Christopher, because this is the thing. Kind of my background as a former teacher, going into entrepreneurship first as a tutoring business, and then just I was just tutoring. Then it became a business. Then to hey, involved in the publicity game as a publicist and a booker, and then the marketing agency started. Then than the show and all these different things, but they all didn't. There was no plan involved. That's the hard. But I guess
Right.
sometimes the best laid plans are not we don't know about, and that's so true. Diane, I think what makes it so passionate about your wanting of an entrepreneurship. I think as a journalist, it helps a lot
Hmm.
because we ask the right questions. We research. As a former educator, I see that all the time, and a journalist, that ultimately I know how to ask the right questions because your customers and your clients need to know that you're really listening to them.
Oh, definitely. Listening to them individually and as a whole. And so when I started
Hmm.
looking into this idea of childcare, I discovered a lot of things I didn't realize. So initially I thought, oh, I'll help moms to convince themselves to take a break from the kids to, for their mental health, for their own self-care. But what I found was the biggest challenge was for them to really find the right weekly childcare provider so they could work and keep their career. I discovered of the 32 million
Huge.
working moms in the United States who have kids under 18, 16 million of them, half of them, work part-time. It's very challenging to find
Mm.
part-time childcare. And many of them struggle so much and become so frustrated they can't find the right piece to the puzzle in their life that they leave their careers. 1.8 million women every year leave careers that they don't want to. And so that pushes me every day like wind at my back, motivating me to say, I want women to have these choices. If a woman wants to stay home full time with their child, I applaud that. But if a woman wants to have a career, especially like I did, and have this great balance where 5 days a week I was with the kids, 2 days a week I was fulfilled in my career, and then I struggled 12 different childcare providers during the first 4 years of being a
Oh,
working mom.
Wow. Hmm.
And I don't want anyone to go through that kind of struggle until I found the right one. And when I found the right one who stayed with us for 8 years, I discovered she was right there in my own community, a mile from me. Why didn't I know about her? Why couldn't I find her?
Mm.
So, how can I gather all those childcare providers in a given community and in all the communities and make them accessible and bring people together and not just help people find the right child care provider, but manage that care? Because week to week, 25% of the time, our schedules change. Even when we think, okay, I've got this down, everything is going to be the same, things don't always align. School holidays, kids get sick, and we help them manage that care as well as find the ideal child care provider.
So that's how you know she's a reporter. She answered my question before I had a chance to even get in there. But absolutely, I love everything that you just laid out because part of what I was going to ask is was what was that core vision, and you just laid it out perfectly of how did you get there, your experience as a mom, and how you're traversing that. So I wanted to segue a little bit into how is that vision, and you've seen all these problems, from both individual and the holistic view, right, of the market. How are what are the solutions now that MomSup's providing to really help tackle those issues?
That's interesting that you would ask that, Christopher, because in the beginning, I had a different, my vision, I was going to say I had a different vision. I had
Mhm.
a different approach. So my vision was always to reduce the stress, that mom guilt, and that self-criticism
Mm.
that moms in particular and parents in general go through related to a lot of things that's parenting, but especially childcare, and to just bring more calm, confidence, and clarity to the lives of moms and parents. And so I was doing that by finding the right childcare. But in the beginning, I thought, well, affordability is a huge issue
Mhm.
everywhere, but especially in the United States, where there's not a whole lot of help from
right.
outside. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if moms traded childcare? Then it could be super affordable
Interesting,
and you
right.
would earn credits. And so I came up with this idea, and I actually developed a no-code app, and I started having events to bring people together, and they said, "Oh, I love this idea." But getting people to actually do it was kind of like felt like I was pulling them in and always pulling, and it was difficult. And so even though people say they love your idea, to actually get them to do it is a different thing. And
Mm.
then the next step is get them to spend money to do it. I couldn't even get them to do it without money. So I connected with a friend in Silicon Valley who said, you have a great idea of helping these moms, but obviously the execution's not working. I'm going to help you brainstorm to come up with some
Yeah.
other ways to approach it. And I just kept trying different things. And eventually I found out that what moms really want is to give somebody all that key information. Where do I need care? When do I need care? How much can I pay? How often? And then collect that same information from childcare providers and then use what my tech co-founder Austin created, an algorithm to match them up. Use technology, right,
Mm.
to find the right match, and then charge them the rate that is fair for everyone, because the moms that need care are not always the same moms that are going to be able to find the time to provide it. So that trading just didn't work. So I pivoted. I kept the same focus on helping these moms with
Mm.
their
Mhm.
stress around childcare, but I pivoted with my approach. And so now we have in-home childcare providers. Our minimum rate is $16 an hour. Now that may sound like a lot if you're only earning 20 or 25 an hour a week yourself, but if you only need that care 2 hours a day after school,
Mhm.
it can be affordable. So
Yeah.
we're educating people about that. But it can be tricky to find that right person who's only available 2 hours a day, right? 4 days a week, say, because you have Fridays off. Typical example of somebody that we're helping. So that's how we've implemented the business model, is to kind of niche down and find out who needs that help really right now. And then when we found the people who desperately wanted that, they were coming at me faster than I could keep up with them, and
Right.
they were willing to pay me. And now we have paying customers. And that's when you know you have product market fit as a startup founder.
When you think
Wow.
about algorithm and you think about the things that you're coming up with, you're pivoting as an entrepreneur. And this is one thing that I have pivoted so many times. And you
Hmm.
could beat yourself up and say, well, I was on the right track. And then, oh, Eureka, it's not going to. And I saw the final result of that track. And I think that's what you figured out, Diane, is you saw the same thing. You saw, oh, I better make a change now
Yeah.
instead of later. And that means being in your business, working on your business instead of being in your business. You really have to look at and identify, is this really working? Do I need to keep going? And you pivoted, made some changes, got the right team in place. And now it sounds like it's something that moms really need, where you had a great idea, but sometimes great ideas hit the floor just because of implementation,
Hmm.
logistics. You think you could duplicate yourself when you ultimately can't duplicate yourself. That's
Right.
everyone. You think everyone's like you, and they're not like you. You have to really think in your customer's head, right, Diane?
Oh, exactly. Yes. And the beautiful thing about what we're doing is we're bringing together the parents and the childcare providers in a Zoom meeting, right? This makes it very pertinent to do this now. Before the pandemic, our model wouldn't have quite worked because people would have
Hmm.
been hesitant. They wouldn't have even understood how to work Zoom. But now they can get in the Zoom meeting, and then I'm in there with them, guiding the conversation. People don't always know what to ask, kind of helping them along the way and getting all that feedback, like you just said, from the customers. I'm hearing every day from them. I literally was on the phone yesterday with a woman who was crying. I mean,
Oh, wow.
literally crying, telling me, and I didn't even know till the end of the conversation. She's an engineer. Her husband's an engineer.
Oh, what do you
Yeah, the
know?
conversation. So these are professionals, who
Yeah,
know how to solve problems and have gotten over all kinds of obstacles in their life. And she was just crying, saying, I don't know what to do. I feel so lost. My child's in Montessori, but maybe I should take her out because I can't find anyone to go pick her up at 11 o'clock in the middle of the day and then watch her till I get home from work. And I said, no, you don't. If she's thriving in Montessori, don't take her out of that.
100%.
Let her thrive and let us take on that
I
burden.
love it.
And then when I
You're
found out she was, an engineer, I said, "You're thinking about this logically, and but the emotions are getting the best of you, and you're not sure how to handle them." So I felt really good to sort of help her through this, let her know that we're on her side, we're part of her village. That's ultimately what we're doing at Mom Sub. We call it Mom Sub because we're like a substitute mom. We really want to feel like you can almost clone yourself, not quite.
No, totally. Wow. I love this, and Christopher, and this is just going back to the fact is working parents need this.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to that point, right? Could you speak a little bit more to the contrast, the differences for what you've seen for someone who maybe not just aware of Mom Sub or other platforms, but maybe are have stuck on, okay, I need a traditional nanny or can you speak a little bit more for how you've seen things change, especially post pandemic? Um,
Yes, and I'll tell you, things have changed a lot since the time when websites and apps came along
Mhm.
offering different childcare providers because there are lots of them out there, but they give you a list. So imagine you wanted a ride and Uber gave you a list of 30 drivers, their names and phone numbers, and said, you call them all and figure out who's willing to come pick you up.
That's not gonna work.
That's what parents are dealing with now.
With the other competition, yes.
This is what the competition does. And the parents spend an average of 20 to 40 hours to find the right weekly care. And so sometimes people think, well, am I looking for a sitter? Am I looking for a nanny? Like you just said, Christopher. And there are many places you can find very distinct definitions of each of these. But what we're really doing is sort of blurring those lines in a way that it works for actually the families and the childcare providers.
Right.
One of our taglines is childcare and work that fits your life.
Mhm.
We all want work that fits our life, right? We are passionate about our careers and our jobs, but it doesn't mean it's everything. We still have families, we still have hobbies, we still want to work out and eat healthy, right? And all those things take time and energy. And so one reason people become entrepreneurs is to have that work that fits their life. I want people who work for me, both the childcare providers and even people on my core team, to have the schedule and the work that fits their life that they love to do. And then I want the families to have the schedule that works for them, not change your child's, school or have to change the job or career that you have to fit what you think is some nanny notion of, well, I've got to pay this certain amount or have these certain minimum hours or do this a certain
Right.
way. That's what disruption is. Disruption means throw out the rules. We're making our own rules. And
That's
Yep.
that's what
awesome.
we're doing.
And
You
that you're doing such a fantastic job with this mindset. Here's the situation is you go to these other competitors, I won't mention their names, and they ultimately give you a list. And then you have people that are on that list that are looking to mess you over and leave. So
yeah.
ultimately, there's no real, it's kind of like what's happening in Uber. And I mean, like where they'll go to Lyft or, there's no loyalty. I think what you're trying to build
Mhm.
at Mom Sub is something different. Is it serve? What areas do you serve in Mom Sub?
So we started in the Chicago area. We're based in the western suburbs of Chicago near
Okay.
Naperville, a very thriving, family-oriented community. We were very well received there. And we set up a system that now we can duplicate in other cities. So now we
Mhm.
have customers and childcare providers in Indianapolis, in Phoenix, and we're growing. We can go and do this in other cities quickly. We're actually now launching a childcare benefits platform so employers can bring our mom sub childcare benefits solution to their employees so their employees don't have to worry about missing work or even
That's
leaving
awesome.
the job.
That's incredibly
And the premium
impactful.
version that the employees pay for gives backup and emergency care as well. So people are not stressing when even their regular provider who they've been counting on just has some emergency that comes up. And so we know we have a system in place. If we find an employer that says we really want to be on board with this, but we're located in Pittsburgh, that's okay. We have a system in place. We can onboard enough vetted providers that we can go there within a couple weeks and start serving the employees of your customers. And so the employees of your company and make
Yeah.
them our customers, kind of B to B to C, right?
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, no, this is absolutely incredible, and you're so ingrained in and you can tell that you've done so much research and you've been through the trenches and understanding your personas and your audience so intently. So I just absolutely love it. It's completely exuding from you here. As we kind of I wanted to understand what are some last little key insights that you want to leave the audience here today. If you're maybe if you're a business owner or maybe you're just a struggling mom right now, right?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple of key things that help you get from here to here. And one of them is mentors are important and
Mhm.
education is important. And execution is important. So many of my mentors are the authors of books I've listened to. I told you the story about listening to that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Well, it didn't end there. Once I listened to that book and got my first rental property, I then listened to literally thousands of hours of real estate books and courses over the
Wow.
next 10 years.
you're
Kind
you're you're
of
a
gave
hustler. There you
myself a
go.
degree and now have a rent, a rental investment portfolio because of that. And so that tradition has continued. And when I stopped going up to Milwaukee, I miss that. I'm like, I don't have those audiobooks in my life. It's like somebody's missing. They were my mentors. And I ride a bike every day, not when it's 20 degrees outside in Chicago. And then I have to go to the gym and do it. But generally, I'm outside riding through the forest preserves. And I thought, and I do this an hour every day. I could listen to those books then and
Yeah,
continue
that's a good
that
way. Use the
tradition.
time.
And so I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of books, and then I'm listening to whatever problem I'm trying to tackle in my business. And then I, of course, attend webinars, listen to podcasts, get advice from people. But at a certain point, you have to say, I can't know everything. I can't do everything everyone's telling me to do because I get conflicting advice and I don't have 50 hours in a day. And you just got to say, now I got to execute. Now I got to delegate the time to do the work.
Take the leap of faith.
And
Yeah.
you have to keep that balance. But I like that I can have these mentors in this education in my ear, giving me ideas and guiding me and helping me know what other people have done that was wrong or that turned out right while I'm doing something else, while I'm exercising, getting that, the mental health of getting away from the stress of the business and doing something
Hmm.
good for my personal
Oh,
physical
it's important
health.
to have that work-life balance, but also
Yeah.
the working out and to stay in shape and to really strengthen your mind as an entrepreneur to constantly learn
Hmm.
and see what's the newest things out there because you can literally get taught to do the same thing over and over again. At one point, it's going to be obsolete. So,
Hmm.
childcare, when childcare has robots, which will be 10 years from now, be ready. So you have to be ready in the robotics end for that. She's shaking her head. She
Although I just did a,
you need that Netflix movie was really good with I forget who, but yeah, so that talked about, but it will come. Here's the reason, because
yeah.
people don't like certain jobs anymore. So you have to find the right people, and that's the hardest thing to hire the right people. But this is such a great conversation, and Christopher,
Yeah.
another great guest on the Savant podcast. Diane, where's the best place we can find information on you, learn more about you, and everything? Where can we go?
So I would love people to go to our website, which is momsub.com, like substitute mom, SUB. They can also contact me directly. You're welcome to send an email to Diane, Diane, at momsub.com. And we welcome feedback, interest. If you're so interested that you want to become part of our team or invest in our business, we're going to be launching a equity crowdfunding campaign.
Ooh,
So
fun.
I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. You can find me under Mom Sub or Mom Sub app is where we are on Twitter and Instagram, all over. And we're very accessible and always listening to what customers have to say and then responding back to you.
Fabulous,
Well,
fabulous.
thank you so much,
Best place
Diane.
we can go for you, Christopher. Where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check us out on LinkedIn. It is Savant, the Life, Wealth, and Impact Group. And then you can also check us out on our website, Savantrepreneur. Replace the EN with Savant, and you're right there. So
Excellent.
thanks,
Appreciate it.
everyone.
Thanks again, Christopher. Thanks, Diane. That was a special
You.
simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Savant Podcast, guys.